When you think of the golden age of American television, few shows stand as tall as Leave It to Beaver. First airing in 1957, this family sitcom didn't just entertain, it became a cultural time capsule of the 1950s and early 60s. Through the innocent eyes of young Theodore Beaver Cleaver, the steady wisdom of his older brother Wally, and the picture-perfect parenting of June and Ward Cleaver, the series captured the everyday challenges of childhood and family life in a way that still feels timeless. But behind those wholesome black and white frames, there are secrets, struggles, and unexpected stories that shaped both the show and the people who made it. So buckle up, because here are 20 jaw-dropping facts you've probably never heard. Let's saddle up.
Number 1.
In 1961, the episode In the Soup pushed the show's budget higher than ever before. What seemed like a simple prank, Beaver climbing onto a giant soup billboard after a dare, turned into a technical nightmare. The crew had to build 2 massive sets, a real outdoor billboard for wide shots, and an enormous indoor replica, so cameras could capture Beaver wobbling and panicking inside the fake soup bowl. The price tag? Nearly $40,000. An eye-watering figure at a time when the average house cost about the same. But the gamble paid off. The suspense kept viewers glued to their screens, and the episode remains one of the most talked about moments in the show's history.
Number 2.
Fans might remember Judy Hensler, Beaver's sharp-tongued classmate played by Jerry Weil. After 31 appearances, she disappeared from the series without explanation. Years later, Jerry revealed the real reason. As she grew older, filming became emotionally difficult, and she decided to step away. It was a brave, personal decision that showed maturity far beyond her years. Speaking of maturity, let's pause for a second. If you're enjoying these hidden gems about Leave It to Beaver, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It really helps us bring you more stories you won't find anywhere else.
Number 3.
On screen, Hugh Beaumont was the perfect dad, calm, wise, and supportive as Ward Cleaver. But behind the scenes, he carried a devastating loss. In 1959, Beaumont's wife, son, and mother-in-law were in a car accident. His mother-in-law was killed, and his son seriously injured. From then on, every episode reminded him of the family pain he could never escape. While audiences saw America's ideal father figure, Beaumont was quietly acting through grievance, making his role even more poignant.
Number 4.
Every kid remembers Beaver's chubby, snack-loving buddy Larry Mondello. But suddenly, by season 4, Larry was gone. No explanation, no goodbye. The truth? His mother was notoriously difficult on set, constantly interfering with production. Combined with the family's move to Philadelphia, Larry's exit became permanent. He was replaced by Gilbert Bates, who filled the role of Beaver's mischievous sidekick.
Number 5.
One of the most beautiful things about Leave It to Beaver was the brotherly bond between Beaver and Wally Cleaver. On screen, they felt like real siblings, bickering one minute, protecting each other the next. That chemistry wasn't just good acting. Jerry Mathers, Beaver, and Tony Dow, Wally, genuinely became like brothers off-screen too. They spent years growing up together on set, learning lines, pulling pranks, and navigating childhood in the spotlight. Unlike many Hollywood relationships that fade once the cameras stop, theirs endured. In the 1970s, long after the show ended, the two reunited to perform in stage plays across the country. Fans who came to see them weren't just watching 2 former co-stars, they were watching lifelong friends whose bond had outlasted the fame. It's rare, even today, for child actors to carry friendships into adulthood, but Jerry and Tony managed it. And when Tony Dow passed away in 2022, Jerry Mathers posted a heartfelt tribute, calling him not just my big brother on screen, but forever in my heart. It's proof that sometimes television families really do become real families.
Number 6.
Imagine being the star of one of the most popular shows in America and not being allowed to watch it. That was the strange reality for Jerry Mathers and Tony Dow. Why? Producers worried that if Beaver and Wally saw themselves on television, they might develop big heads or start acting differently on set. So their parents enforced a strict rule: no Leave It to Beaver at home. Can you picture it? Millions of families gathered around their TV sets every week, laughing and learning with the Cleavers, while the actual kids who brought those characters to life were stuck outside that experience. Jerry once admitted that when friends at school quoted lines from the show, he often didn't know what they were talking about. For him, it wasn't until reruns years later that he finally saw what America had been falling in love with all along. It's almost ironic. Leave It to Beaver was about childhood innocence and growing up, but the very kids at the heart of it were shielded from experiencing it the way the audience did.
Number 7.
It may sound silly today, but in the 1950s, TV networks were incredibly strict about what could be shown on screen. One of the strangest taboos? Toilets. That's right, just the sight of a toilet was considered too inappropriate for American audiences. But Leave It to Beaver changed all that in the 1957 episode Captain Jack. In it, Beaver and Wally secretly order a baby alligator through the mail. And where do they decide to hide it? In the toilet tank. Censors were horrified. A toilet on national TV? Unthinkable. But producers argued that the gag only worked if the audience could see where the alligator was hidden. After a heated back and forth, the censors finally gave in, on one condition: only the toilet tank and handle could be shown. The episode aired, audiences laughed, and history was made. Leave It to Beaver became the first American TV show to ever show a toilet. Think about that. The same series known for its squeaky clean image was quietly breaking ground for realism in television. It's a reminder that even the most innocent shows sometimes push the biggest boundaries.
Number 8.
Before he was cast as Wally Cleaver, Tony Dow was already something of a local celebrity. Not in Hollywood, but in the swimming pool. At just 9 years old, Tony won the Junior Olympics diving championship. His natural athleticism and confidence made him stand out. He even dreamed of one day competing in the Olympic Games, a goal he might have achieved if fate hadn't intervened. When he accompanied a friend to an audition, Tony caught the eye of casting directors. He had no acting experience, but his good looks, charm, and wholesome energy made him a perfect fit for Wally Cleaver. Suddenly, the Olympic hopeful was thrust into America's living rooms as the quintessential big brother. Yet, he never completely abandoned his love for athletics. Throughout the series, Tony's posture, fitness, and even the way he carried himself on camera reflected his background as a disciplined athlete. It's fascinating to think, if not for a twist of fate, Tony Dow might have been remembered as an Olympic diver instead of one of TV's most beloved older brothers.
Number 9.
One of the most unique things about Leave It to Beaver was that it let its characters grow up naturally on screen. Unlike many shows that kept kids the same age for years, producers allowed Beaver and Wally to age right alongside the actors. When we first met Beaver, he's an innocent second grader navigating spelling tests and playground rules. By the final season, he's a teenager facing bigger dilemmas: responsibility, honesty, and first crushes. Wally, meanwhile, evolves from a goofy middle schooler into a confident high school graduate. This decision gave audiences something rare: authenticity. Families watching at home weren't just seeing characters. They were watching kids grow up in real time, just like their own children. That's one reason the show resonated so deeply. Parents related to Ward and June, while children saw themselves in Beaver and Wally. Looking back, it's almost like we grew up with the Cleaver boys. Each season felt like flipping a page in a family photo album, one where the smiles, awkward stages, and lessons learned were all on display.
Number 10.
Sometimes the biggest roles in Hollywood are won not by talent alone, but by pure honesty. That's exactly what happened with Jerry Mathers. When Jerry auditioned for the role of Beaver, he wasn't dressed up or rehearsed to perfection. He showed up wearing his Boy Scout uniform. Why? He had a scout meeting right after and told the casting directors he didn't want to miss it. Think about that. Most kids would have been desperate to impress. Jerry just wanted to do his audition quickly and move on with his day. And that blunt honesty was exactly what won the producers over. They saw a kid who was genuine, unpolished, and real. That moment sealed his fate. Jerry Mathers became Beaver, and television history was made. It's almost poetic. The character of Beaver Cleaver was loved because he was real, relatable, and authentic. And Jerry earned the role by simply being himself. Sometimes honesty really is the best audition.
Number 11.
Every great show needs a wild card, and for Leave It to Beaver, that was Eddie Haskell. With his slicked back hair, phony politeness to adults, and sarcastic digs at kids, Eddie quickly became one of television's most unforgettable characters. But here's the twist. Eddie wasn't just a character, he was an archetype. He embodied that one kid every parent recognized. Overly polite when mom and dad were in the room, but a sneaky, mischievous instigator the moment their backs were turned. Played brilliantly by Ken Osmond, Eddie was actually nothing like his on-screen persona. Off-camera, Osmond was shy, polite, and deeply dedicated to his craft. In fact, producers initially thought Eddie would only appear in a single episode, but the audience reaction was so strong that he was written into nearly every season, becoming Wally's best friend and Beaver's occasional tormentor. The genius of Eddie Haskell was his duality. Adults laughed because they saw through his fake charm, while kids secretly admired how he pushed boundaries. Over time, Eddie Haskell became shorthand in American culture for any two-faced troublemaker. Politicians, co-workers, even classmates were labeled an Eddie Haskell. And here's the kicker. After the show, Ken Osmond left acting altogether and became, wait for it, a police officer in Los Angeles. That's right, the same guy who played America's sneakiest teen grew up to wear the badge and serve the law. Talk about irony. Eddie Haskell didn't just add humor to Leave It to Beaver. He became a cultural touchstone, a reminder that sometimes the most entertaining characters are the ones we love to hate.
Number 12.
In the late 1960s, an odd rumor started spreading like wildfire across college campuses and newspapers. Jerry Mathers, the boy who played Beaver, was killed in Vietnam. The story sounded tragic and believable. After all, many young men his age were being drafted, and fans hadn't heard from Mathers in years. The rumor grew so wide that it eventually reached national headlines. But here's the truth. Jerry Mathers was very much alive. He had served in the Air Force Reserve but never went overseas. He later joked that hearing of his own death was one of the strangest experiences of his life. Imagine sitting at home, reading a newspaper, and seeing an obituary written about you. The rumor became so widespread that it turned into one of television's most enduring urban legends. Even today, some people still believe the Beaver died in Vietnam. What's fascinating is how this rumor reflects the time period. The 1960s were turbulent, filled with war, political unrest, and shifting cultural norms. People projected that chaos onto even the most wholesome of figures, like Beaver Cleaver. Jerry eventually returned to public life, starring in reunion movies and revivals, proving once and for all that the Beaver was alive and well. But that weird rumor, it's part of his legacy now, a reminder of just how deeply the show embedded itself into American culture.
Number 13.
Ask anyone to describe June Cleaver, and they'll probably mention her pearls, dresses, and ever-present high heels. But why was she always dressed so perfectly, even while vacuuming the house or cooking dinner? The answer lies partly in the era's television standards. Producers wanted June, played by Barbara Billingsley, to embody the ideal 1950s housewife. Polished, elegant, and always put together. But there was also a practical reason for those high heels. By the later seasons, the young actors playing Wally and Beaver were shooting up in height. Tony Dow, in particular, became much taller than his on-screen mother. To balance scenes and avoid awkward camera angles, Barbara Billingsley wore heels in almost every scene. The pearls? Those were her own touch. She thought they softened her neckline under the studio lights. Over time, June Cleaver became both a symbol and a stereotype. Some viewers adored her as the perfect mom, while others criticized her for setting unrealistic expectations for women. But Barbara herself had a good sense of humor about it. She once said, "No one I knew back then lived like June Cleaver, not even me." Still, the image stuck. June Cleaver remains the gold standard for TV moms, high heels and all.
Number 14.
Believe it or not, Leave It to Beaver almost never existed under that name. When producers first pitched the series, they considered several titles, including It's a Small World and Wally and the Beaver. Can you imagine? If the show had been called Wally and the Beaver, it might have felt more like a gimmick than a timeless family series. The eventual choice, Leave It to Beaver, had a simple charm. It captured the idea of childhood innocence, of leaving things behind as you grow up. The name puzzled some network executives at first. What does it even mean? They asked. But the producers stuck to their vision, and soon the title became as iconic as the show itself. This little detail reminds us how fragile TV history can be. A single decision, a title, a casting choice, a script tweak can change everything. If Beaver Cleaver had debuted under another banner, would the show have become the same cultural phenomenon? We'll never know. But one thing's for sure, Leave It to Beaver was the perfect name for a show about childhood, family, and the lessons we carry with us.
Number 15.
To fans, Hugh Beaumont will always be the steady, pipe-smoking father figure, Ward Cleaver. But acting was just one chapter in his life. Behind the calm demeanor of Ward was a man of many hidden talents and a surprising second career. Before Hollywood, Beaumont had studied theology. He was a licensed Methodist minister who occasionally preached and wrote sermons. His sense of morality and fairness wasn't just acting, it was part of who he was. That background gave Ward Cleaver's advice a depth that resonated with audiences. But Beaumont's life took yet another twist after Leave It to Beaver. He moved away from acting and became a Christmas tree farmer in Minnesota. That's right, the man who had once been America's TV dad spent his later years growing evergreens. He also continued writing and occasionally directing. This quieter, simpler life suited him. After all, Hugh Beaumont had never craved Hollywood fame. He once admitted he valued being with his family far more than being in the spotlight. It's almost poetic. Ward Cleaver taught America about the importance of family, honesty, and humility. And Hugh Beaumont lived those values off-screen too.
Number 16.
Most fans remember Leave It to Beaver as wholesome and squeaky clean. But believe it or not, there was one episode so controversial, it was pulled from syndication for decades. The episode, titled Beaver and Andy, aired in 1958. It told the story of Beaver befriending a man who lived in the neighborhood, a man who turned out to be an alcoholic. The plot was meant to teach kids about trust, responsibility, and how appearances can be disappointing. At the time, alcoholism was rarely, if ever, depicted on television. Some parents felt the subject matter was too heavy for a family sitcom. Others worried it painted a disturbing picture of strangers in the neighborhood. Network executives eventually pulled the episode from reruns, making it something of a lost piece of television history. Today, when you watch Beaver and Andy, it feels tame by modern standards. But in the late 50s, it was groundbreaking. It showed that even a show famous for its innocence wasn't afraid to shine a light on real-life issues. In its own way, Leave It to Beaver was pushing boundaries again, just like it did with the toilet episode. It's a reminder that family shows weren't always fluff. Sometimes they delivered lessons in ways that were bold for their time.
Number 17.
Cars played a big role in Leave It to Beaver, especially as Wally got older. Teenagers and their cars were a huge part of 1950s culture, symbolizing freedom, responsibility, and growing up. On the show, Wally was often seen driving around in his first car, a 1953 Chevrolet Bel Air convertible. It became almost as much a character as Eddie Haskell. But behind the scenes, those car scenes came with their share of challenges. Tony Dow admitted later that he didn't even have his driver's license when he first started filming Wally's car episodes. The crew had to carefully stage shots, so it looked like he was confidently driving, when in reality, safety rules kept him from going very far. Even funnier, when Tony finally did get his license in real life, his first car wasn't a sleek convertible. It was a used, beat-up sedan. Quite the contrast from Wally's shiny wheels on TV. For fans, though, those car episodes carried a lot of weight. They symbolized Wally stepping into adulthood, a rite of passage every teenager could relate to. It wasn't just about driving, it was about growing up.
Number 18.
When you picture the Cleaver family home, you probably imagine that perfect suburban house with its neat lawn, cozy kitchen, and tidy bedrooms. It felt so real that fans often asked if they could visit the Cleaver house in person. Here's the truth. The Cleaver house was never a real house at all. It was part of the Universal Studios backlot. What looked like a warm family home on screen was actually a facade, a shell of walls with cameras and lights just outside the frame. frame. And here's where it gets even cooler. After Leave It to Beaver ended, the Cleaver house didn't go away. Universal reused it in dozens of other productions, from TV shows to commercials. You can even spot it in the background of movies made decades later. For the cast, filming inside a house that was really just a set was a strange experience.
Comic books.
Jerry Mathers once joked that as a kid, he thought it was normal for houses to have only 3 walls. It wasn't until much later that he realized just how artificial his TV childhood really was. Yet, despite being fake, the Cleaver house became one of the most iconic homes in television history, right up there with the Brady Bunch split level and the Full House Victorian.
Number 19.
To millions of viewers, Tony Dow was the picture-perfect all-American teen. Confident, handsome, and good-natured. But behind the polished image, Dow struggled with the pressures of fame in ways few people realized at the time. After Leave It to Beaver ended in 1963, Tony found it difficult to escape Wally Cleaver's shadow. Casting directors saw him as the big brother and little else. He battled typecasting, trying to prove he could take on more serious or different roles. Worse still, like many child stars, Dow wrestled with self-doubt. Later in life, he spoke openly about his struggles with depression, a condition that wasn't widely understood in the 60s and 70s. For years, he kept it hidden, fearing it would damage his career. But Tony eventually found peace and a new creative outlet: art. He became a talented sculptor, creating bronze works that were displayed in galleries around the world. His art gave him the freedom to express himself in ways acting never could. His journey is a powerful reminder that behind the glossy image of Hollywood, real people face real battles. Tony Dow wasn't just Wally Cleaver. He was an artist, a fighter, and ultimately, a survivor.
Number 20.
After 6 beloved seasons, Leave It to Beaver came to an end in 1963 with the episode Family Scrapbook. Unlike most finales of its era, this one gave fans a true sense of closure. In the episode, June finds an old family scrapbook, and the Cleavers sit down to flip through it. What unfolds is a series of flashbacks to past adventures: Beaver's mischief, Wally's milestones, Ward's advice, and June's steady presence. It was a heartfelt goodbye, both to the characters and to the audience who had grown up alongside them. What makes this finale remarkable is that it was one of the very first TV shows to intentionally write a final episode. Back then, most series just ended abruptly, without warning. But Leave It to Beaver thing to honor its fans with a reflective farewell. When the final scene faded out, viewers weren't just saying goodbye to a TV family, they were saying goodbye to an entire era. America was changing. The innocence of the 1950s was giving way to the turbulence of the 1960s. And in many ways, Leave It to Beaver captured the very last breath of that simpler time.
Bonus.
Here's the most heartwarming part of all. Leave It to Beaver never truly disappeared. In 1983, the original cast reunited for a made-for-TV movie, Still the Beaver. The response was so strong that it led to an entire revival series in the late 1980s, titled The New Leave It to Beaver. For fans, it was like catching up with old friends after 20 years. The revival showed Beaver as an adult, navigating fatherhood and facing the same kinds of dilemmas his parents once did. Wally became a responsible lawyer. June adapted to life as a grandmother, and even Eddie Haskell returned, older, but just as slippery as ever. While it never reached the same cultural heights as the original, the revival proved something powerful. The Cleavers still mattered. Their lessons about honesty, responsibility, and love for family were timeless. And even today, with reruns and streaming, new generations are discovering Beaver Cleaver for the very first time. That's the true magic of the show. It didn't just belong to the 1950s. It belongs to everyone who's ever been a kid trying to make sense of the world. So there you have it. 20 surprising facts and one bonus story about Leave It to Beaver, the show that gave America a mirror of its own ideals and dreams. From expensive suit billboards to urban legends about the Beaver's fate, from Eddie Haskell's cultural legacy to Hugh Beaumont's real-life ministry, these stories remind us that television history is richer than we think. And if there's one lesson the Cleavers still teach us today, it's this: family honesty and laughter never go out of style. If you grew up watching Leave It to Beaver, I'd love to hear your favorite memory in the comments below. And if this was your first time learning about the show, tell me, did any of these facts surprise you? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon, because just like Beaver, we've always got another adventure around the corner. Until next time, stay curious, stay nostalgic, and keep leaving it to Beaver.